That's the thing, though. That kind of goes to my point too, where it's just like, if you're even thinking that, you don't understand the material. Because, dude, like they are so different. Like Game of Thrones is that's why I just constantly say it's an unfair comparison. They are fundamentally different. They both have things that look like dragons. They both have dragons, I guess you could say, because there are actual dragons. It's just funny, like the thing that the Nazgul ride like aren't really dragons, but like in the original Lord of the Rings, that's all we got were the things that the Nazgul rode. Which, if you want to call them dragons, fine, but like that's a dragon, that's a dragon. The thing the Nazgul rode, they aren't really dragons. Like you can call them dragons, but that wasn't a dragon. Like I never really cared for the design of that. But then Smaug is like that's a dragon. It's like that's a dragon. But, like,
Sure.
that's, like, it when, like, you look at it, like, Lord of the Rings has elves, they have literal
Dwarves.
magic, they have magical rings, they have orcs, they have hobbits, they have all like, it is so much more high fantasy in, like, so many ways. Lord in Game of Thrones is just, like, a medieval political setting, and there are some dragons and some mysticism.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, it's just so fundamentally different. Like, it's like, they draw the comparison because of the medieval setting and then the dragons, but then, like, it stops there. Future Rob here with a clarifying statement. So, in Lord of the Rings and the Tolkien universe in general, we know everything about how that world was created. We know about Iluvatar and how he's essentially the god figure. He created everything. He created the Valar. Then there was a Song of the Valar that essentially created everything else in that world, right? And then the Maiar came from that, and then the elves came, and the men and the dwarves, and all of that good stuff, right? All that was explained. Tolkien wrote all of that out. There is no real ambiguity with any of that. It was literally all explained to us. But in the world of Ice and Fire, George R. R. Martin has not explained everything in that fashion. So, as far as the species or races are concerned, we really only know about the children of the forest, the giants, men, or like humanoid figures, and then the White Walkers. And then obviously like dragons and like some, creatures and things like that. But George has never gone into great detail or really explained the history or creation of the Ice and Fire universe or the species that are in it. Essentially, like we know that the children of the forest and the giants are virtually extinct during the events of A Song of Ice and Fire and thought to be myths amongst men, and as opposed to the plethora of races and species throughout Tolkien's Middle Earth. And all the species within Middle Earth and everything, they're all acutely aware of one another. Like the elves know about the men know about the dwarves know about the dragons. It's no real secret in that universe. Whereas very little is known about the world of Ice and Fire before the events of A Song of Ice and Fire. And this is one of the core differences between the two properties. George R. R. Martin has intentionally left such things ambiguous and has not, and realistically likely will not, fully explain these things along with magic and mysticism, though only time will tell. But I'm going to hand things back over to past Rob and John, but before I do, like and subscribe. Like all the races in Westeros they're humans. There's one, not races, just species. There's never been any other elven lords or anything like that. Now there were like the first men in the Andals who are said to be kind of like bigger humanoids, but they were still just humans. Like they weren't like elves and orcs and all this weird stuff. Now I guess you do have the White Walkers, to be fair.
And the giants, right? Remember the giant that was in the that came from the
Oh
north?
no,
It
you're
was
right. In the north,
yeah,
yeah, they had giant
yeah.
giants. That's true. I completely blanked on that. See, I've read the books. I don't like some stuff has just escaped me. So they
Yeah.
did have some giants, but they were
But
dead. And it
the focus is on the human characters.
well, yeah, that's the thing too. Like
Very
during the era Game of Thrones is set, the giants have died off. Like
mhm,
we know that the giants that we saw that lived beyond the wall at this point, that was the king, and he was like those like three or four. They were like the last ones that anyone knows of. And then you have the little green little what are they called? The little green things that were like throwing fireballs with Bran and Bloodraven
yeah.
beyond the wall. You had those. I can't remember what they're called, but those were also the last of their kind. So maybe at one point back in however many centuries ago when the Andals were here before all the kingdoms of Westeros came and whatever, maybe all that stuff was going wild. Maybe there was a lot more mysticism. The world we were introduced to in the books is this. You know, it's like
Mhm.
it's this setting. We've never really had any books going into how this world was back when all that stuff was at its height. Like, it's kind of that's honestly kind of make Game of Thrones very interesting in a lot of ways because you got to think we know all that stuff does exist in this world, but something wiped them out. Like somehow they lost. And I mean, we're led to believe that it was just like the White Walkers were the reason that a lot of like the Andals died and there's no more giants, even though ironically the giants live beyond the wall where the White Walkers are. So yeah, that's why you're all dead. Maybe not live with your enemy. You'd probably be around more. But then the little green folks, like they were killed off by the White Walkers. So like this is interesting because we never really got to see that world. So if George ever finishes these two damn books, he could maybe go back in time and tell like his version of Lord of the Rings, like this super high fantasy world of Game of Thrones, the old republic, if you will, of Westeros, which would be kind of cool. If you like this clip and want to be a part of the conversation, come back and join us for our live House of the Dragon after shows every Sunday around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time and 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, immediately following the premiere of each episode on HBO Max. We're also doing live after shows and Q&As every Friday around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time with a 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time for She-Hulk, Lord of the Rings of Power, and we'll also be doing one for the Star Wars prequel series Andor when that comes out later this month. So if you like those shows, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you'll get notified every time that we go live. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the chat and answering your questions in our next video or live stream. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like the video and let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and we'll see you in the next one. Like and subscribe.